Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, good afternoon and a happy new year to all of you. This afternoon I want to use this opportunity to talk to you about some of the major highlights of the past year, but equally about this government's plans for the year ahead. Last year was one of hard work that paid off. Indeed, our success was guided by 7 broad priority areas: stimulating the economy, thereby improving the standard of living, improving overall social services programs and healthcare, strengthening the educational sector, protecting our borders and enhancing law and public safety, public sector reform, communications and infrastructure, and re-establishing and strengthening regional and international relationships. As I said in my budget address, our overnight tourism figures continue to rise significantly over previous years. On New Year's Eve, for example, much of our shores from North Song area to Jocelyn Dyke were packed with tourists enjoying the recreational sailing offerings. Foxy's on Jocelyn Dyke was, of course, unsurpassed in terms of the crowds. But let me first look back briefly at our main accomplishments over the past year. Tourism is critical to the development of this territory and its people. Last year, we pioneered a new beginning for the cruise industry by breaking ground to welcome a new facility to accommodate the new trend of cruise ships. More passengers, thereby making us more competitive as a prime destination for individual and family travels. Our taxi drivers, tour operators, businessmen, and women will all benefit from this development. We expect this facility to be commissioned this year, signaling a new direction for the industry, our businesses, and our people. In the meantime, we continue to accommodate a large number of cruise ships in our harbor. With regards to health, building a healthier Virgin Islands continues to be our constant mantra in improving overall social services. Last month, history was made in our healthcare sector, as our citizens can now enjoy state-of-the-art healthcare facilities at the new People's Hospital. I am pleased that we have now transitioned fully with patients enjoying modern medical amenities. But it's not all about Tortola, as in the coming weeks we will announce the contractor selected to construct a new Nurse Iris O'Neill Medical Facility on Virgin Gorda, so the work can begin later this year. Education is the foundation on which our people develop and thrive. We understand this, and we have done much to improve our local education standards to meet regional and international standards. You would recall that in October, my government opened the Virgin Islands School of Technical Studies. We are especially proud of this institution, of not just higher but practical education that will provide this community with the skills needed for a daily living. In the area of roads and sewage development, works have commenced on the rehabilitation of our major roads and drains on Tortola, Anegada, Virgin Gorda, and Jocelyn Dyke. These works are expected to pick up pace with the delivery of the new equipment that has been purchased and put in commission by the Public Works Department. We are currently commissioning the new asphalt machine. Ultimately, we expect this road rehabilitation program to continue throughout the year and into 2016. Furthermore, we have made significant progress with building a proper sewage system. We are satisfied with the ongoing work of the National Sewage Project. Phase 2 of the National Sewage Project in Rotong is completed, and approximately 500 feet of pipeline has been installed at the roundabout. The sewage system in this area is currently fully operational. National sewage projects work have been completed along Blackburn Highway from Chapel Hill to Paramtum Junction. Work will continue as soon as next week in Eastern Long Look area. We anticipate that by the end of the third quarter of 2015, we should have a fully functioning sewage system. We thank you for your patience during this time. Works will also continue along Blackburn Highway from the pump station at Long Swamp to the treatment plant at Paraquita Bay, as will the installation and commission of the outfall and required pump and lift stations at requisite locations in the eastern Longlow communities. This year we expect to have house connections and a system that is in use by the citizens of these communities. The financial services continues to be the largest revenue earner for this government, and indeed our people, last year we celebrated 30 years of providing international business services to the rest of the world. Building on this industry for the good of BV Islanders continues to top our list of priorities, and my government will continue to do all that is necessary to maintain a competitive edge. We signed the 27th tax treaty, this time with Korea, while I was in London last month. And of course we have signed various other agreements, including the Multilateral Convention for Mutual Assistance in Tax Matters. We continue to be constructive global partners in financial services while preserving BVI's interests. As a part of our overall Safer Communities plan, we were able to move forward with community policing through the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, which is currently ongoing in a number of areas. Furthermore, we will be amending the Firearms and Air Guns Ordinance in the first quarter of 2015 to introduce the minimum penalties on gun control. This is because I continue to be very concerned about the level of gun violence in this community, and will be giving the passage of this legislation the highest priority. You would agree that we have been very busy fulfilling our promises to the people of the Virgin Islands. All of these and many more of our accomplishments have been captured in our e-magazine, which will be made available to you and the public this month. It chronicles the work of government from November 2013 to December 2014. It is a production of the Department of Information and Public Relations, and they will tell you how you can access this document entitled Your Government at Work. In reflecting on our milestones over the past year, I must note that we remain steadfast in the efforts to build a people government. I look forward to continued dialogue with the community during our interactive community meetings. We thank those persons who came out to the meetings, and we anticipate even greater interaction this year. In looking to the year ahead, my government is continuing to upgrade the territory's infrastructure in keeping with international standards and enhancing community life for every resident and visitor to the Virgin Islands. Water and electricity are vital commodities to our society and crucial to maintaining a sanitary and comfortable standard of living. But we have had our fair share of challenges in these areas. Last year, for example, we experienced frequent water shortages and power outages. Up to yesterday, due to an unexpected technical hitch, there was another power outage. As I said last night, these should not continue beyond the next few weeks, as an interim solution will shortly be put in place. In relation to water, while we reached a target of having water production by water during the fourth quarter of 2014, we are steadily improving the distribution network to ensure that all households will be able to receive water. Moreover, a hotline will be developed to allow persons with connected public access who are experiencing difficulties to call and make reports. In addition, we will move forward with the BVI Electricity Corporation Phase 5 development. This means an additional 2 new engines and 2 new transmission lines to the BVI Electricity Corporation's arsenal. This phase will ultimately increase the territory's power generation capacity by 13.6 megawatts, or approximately by 33%. In advancing our renewable energy potential this year, we will be tendering for the replacement of the territory's street lighting, and will add an additional 20% of public light fixtures. This will be by a combination of LEDs and solar-powered lights, which, while increasing lighting, will reduce our public street lighting bill by approximately 30%. From an agricultural perspective, during the last quarter of 2015, the territory will be in a position to begin production from our greenhouse technology. We intend to have one of these greenhouses dedicated for teaching purposes and another available for rent by local farmers. I reiterate that we remain heavily focused on our capital investment program for 2015. Let me remind you of some of these priority projects. One, to complete the National Sewage Project, to continue work on the Infrastructure Rehabilitation Project, to complete the Water Network Improvement Project, rehabilitation of schools, road infrastructure, completion of the Greenhouse Project at Paraquita Bay, the Eastern Fatogs Bay Harbor Development, to continue work on that, and to start work on the Iris O'Neill Medical Center and on the Greenland Stadium. Indeed, we expect that in addition to the myriad of recurrent government services, these projects will be critical to improving the lives of BVI landers.
Premier Crystal Kaniak from the BVI Beacon. I want to start, if I can, with Bywater. You said late last year that we've turned the tap, but I wonder if you can tell us how much water is being produced at the plant at the moment.
I cannot tell you the inexact figures. I know that we're not being produced quite as much, it's not fully ramped up. So we're not producing the full amount that was indicated on a monthly basis, a daily basis yet, but we're working towards that.
Okay, and per the contract, is it still the very high, the 2.3 million gallons figure that the government is being billed for at the moment?
That is, the contract remains the same, yes. But as I say, although the taps are open, we started gradually ramping up to the full production.
Okay, couple more quick water-related questions. Sure. You mentioned in your budget address that with all this water being produced, the next thing that government will have to look at is the previous water plants being shut down. Is there a plan for that in terms of which water plants will go first, or are any of them being shut down already?
Yes, that is true. We did mention that there would be the need to shut down some of the other water plants. For example, the water plant in Morgus Bay. For example, the water production in our Lower Estate next to the school. Also, the water plant in Seacor Bay. But because of the fact that we have not quite gotten up to the levels that we spoke about it by water, even though we intended to close those down, or maybe we did temporarily, they are still functioning at the moment until we can. So as we start to ramp up the production by water, we'll gradually cut those off.
Okay, and I also wanted to ask one more thing about Bywater, if you don't mind, and that's about their power plant. We were told last year that Bywater was going to have a dedicated power solution of some kind. Do you happen to know if that's online now?
That is online. The engines were provided by the BVI Electric Corporation for directly to be installed by the Bywater plant, and they are functioning. There was a glitch just a short while ago, but the engine manufacturers or technicians are here, and that is just about resolved,
yes. Premier, you mentioned public sector reform as one of the achievements for your government in 2014. As Premier, what do you think is the various performance level of the various government ministries and agencies? Do you think that they're doing the best that they can at this time based on your achievements as it relates to reform? And if not so, what do you think is required to bring the level of efficiency and efficacy in terms of delivery of services to an optimum level?
I think the work has been going on, steadily going on. There's been considerable improvement in delivery of services by all ministries and departments of government. One of the things which, the significant thing which will occur later this month, I think, will be the introduction of e-government systems, which will be able to enable us to have the work of government dealt with more on an online way. For example, persons can then access forms, application forms through e-government instead of having to come to wait online here in offices. For example, work permit renewals, things like that can be accessed online, and will reduce considerably the waiting time for businesses, which will improve the efficiency. And this is one of the ways one of the significant ways we're looking to improve the efficiency of government here.
What about the execution of projects, national projects? Are you satisfied that this has been going along smoothly?
The national projects have been executed in a timely way. We were concerned, in fact, was concerned for many years about the way government projects were run, but we have been very insistent that government projects are run in a proper way and are carried out efficiently. Matter of fact, what I've done recently is had a review of the procurement process, where and the way in which we get government work out to various contractors and so on. And had a consultant from CDB who looked at that, and he is satisfied to a large extent that our processes are good. There are some improvements which are being considered, but
Premier Gordon French BVI Platinum. When you were talking about plants being closed, I didn't hear any mention about Bar Bay specifically. Is that going to remain open?
The plants which I mentioned there was no long-term contract with those plants. For example, the plant in Borges Bay is owned by government. The plant up at the lower estate behind the school is owned by government. The plant in Seacow Bay, there's no long-term project for that. There's no long-term contract with it. It's on a sort of month-to-month or day-to-day arrangement at the moment. The plant in Bar Bay, that has another 2 years, I think, on a contract with government. So we of necessity have to continue it until that contract is expired.
You don't foresee that plant being closed after the 2 years?
It is possible. We'll have to look at the total production, and of course we'll also have to look at the demand, and we expect that there will be an increased demand for water in the territory, and that may mean that even some of the plants are being closed now. Even the Seacow Bay plant or the Borges plant may have to be reintroduced, but this all depends on the level of demand which will occur over the next several years.
And Premier, the Governor, His Excellency the Governor is likely to make an announcement very soon about whether or not he will conduct an inquiry into the ports project. Now I want to know your feeling as to whether or not, if he does decide to have an inquiry, whether you're confident that your government would be found that you did the right thing when you handle this project. And secondly, he indicated a need to probably go beyond the cruise ship project. Do you support that if there is an inquiry that it should go beyond the cruise ship project to include other projects like the Seacow Bay Marina and the greenhouses?
Those will be, if there's going to be inquiries, they'll all be separate and distinct inquiries, right? And that, of course, is left to the governor to determine whether he will or not. I am confident that as far as the cruise pier project is concerned, that there's no problem, that it was conducted in a proper and efficient way. And of course, you would have listened to the various debates in the House of Assembly, which demonstrated and spoke to what the government had, how the government had carried out that project.
And are you concerned about the timing of this announcement, given that elections may be months away?
No, I'm not concerned about the timing.
Good afternoon. Premier Smith, during your Christmas message, you spoke about stiffer penalties coming for gun violence. We know with laws and stuff, sometimes it takes a long time. how soon can we expect to see something actually happening in light of recent gun-related violence in the community?
We have been discussing this for some time, and there's a draft in place which will be moving along pretty quickly.
Do you have a time frame? I mean, yes, moving along quickly.
I said within the first quarter
The
of
first-
2015, yes.
The solar PV, it was that tender was offered to local and international companies. Now with the street lighting project, is it going to be open to only local bidders, or you're going to do it internationally as well?
Could you repeat with the solar?
Yes, recently the Electricity Corporation, they opened bids for solar PV to be provided at various locations, including the HLSCC and the high school and so on. So I'm asking now, with the street lighting project that you spoke about earlier in your speech, is that going to be opened to local and international bidders?
That will almost certainly be done through local companies and as well as through the Electricity Corporation.
Yes, Premier Smith, sorry about that. Just to go and piggyback on Ms. Smith's first question regarding gun control, can you explain why that legislation has been delayed? I know it has been spoken of and asked for some time, and last year there were at least 3 mentions, and I know you mentioned it in your Christmas message and you promised it was coming, but I would just like to know what caused the delay.
Whenever you're dealing with legislation, especially new legislation, it does take a while because, of course, all the bodies who are concerned must be consulted. There must be discussions. There must also be drafts which must be reviewed by the various the legal departments of government before it all comes to fruition. So most legislation will take a while before they get to the House of Assembly. In fact, some legislation, if I recall, I think I mentioned a few years ago, the Medical Act, which I had revised between 2000 and, I can't remember the time, but it took quite a number of years before it was eventually, taken to the House and it was done. So it does take time because there are always persons or groups who would need to have an input, and the input must be considered before these bits of legislation are finalized.
Have you received any opposition from the legal fraternity, specifically defense lawyers? And what were those concerns expressed about this specific piece of legislation?
No, I haven't. No, I have not personally received anything from the legal fraternity about it.
Okay, and Premier.
But of course, it's please.
Go ahead.
Go on.
All right, you mentioned a lot of improvements coming this year in terms of laws and some of the projects. What has happened to NHI? Is that falling off the train, or is it still going to be coming this year?
No, it's not falling off the train. It's very much on track.
Premier? Good afternoon, Premier, and Happy New Year to you from me.
And every day.
Back on the legislation for the gun issue, I know that's a big topic. This is something that was promised to the people during your campaign period before you entered into government. We are in the season of election. Is it that, as it's being perceived by many, that this is now being rushed to make sure that you fulfill this promise before elections?
Not at all. This is something that's been worked on for over time by the various legal authorities, by the various, like the police, the public prosecutor. All these people have input in that, right? So it's something that's been ongoing. The work has been ongoing. As I said before, legislation does take time. For example, let us say you can look at the Legal Profession Act, for example. That is something that I'm eager to put forward as well. But we've had first readings. But it is important to get it right. And this is why it hasn't been completed, but it will be completed.
You're confident it's going to be completed this year? Okay. To piggyback on what my colleague had asked about the by-water situation, and you mentioned a number of plants that are going to be closed. How does this affect the persons who are working at those plants that will be closed? Is the system going to absorb those persons in other jobs, or they will have to find their own jobs after?
The ones which I mentioned, for example, the Bogus Bay plant, that is owned by government, and it's run largely through the Water and Sewage Department. The one at the school, that again is run by the Water and Sewage Department. Those persons will continue their employment, of course, with the Water and Sewage Department.
Okay, and the facility themselves, if there is no need for them to be utilized, they become white elephants?
No, I said earlier that they will be closed, but there's a very good chance that as there's more water supply to the country, there'll be a greater demand, more people will be signing on to the system, and the demand for water will grow. And so there's a very good chance that these other plants will eventually be, placed back in the system.
How is the government handling the situation of assessment and appointments of staff? This seems to be a problem where persons are aggrieved about. Has anything been done to ensure that persons are assessed and appointed to positions in a timely manner?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
There are persons who are in acting positions for quite some time. Is the government taking any steps to ensure that persons are appointed to positions in a timely manner?
Oh yes, I understand now. The question of appointing persons to the public civil service is a matter that is dealt with by the Human Resources Department, which comes under the purview of the governor. Right? And I know that the governor and of course the deputy governor and their staff are very keen to ensure that persons are appointed in a proper way and on time. In fact, I've heard them say that people should not be acting for more than 1 year.
But the governor has somebody in his office that's acting for 4 years and over.
Yeah. Well, there will be exceptions to any rule. But this is something I'm sure that they're aiming at, because this is the discussion that I've been involved in, that it is not good to have people acting indefinitely. But as I said, there are exceptions, but they will be dealt with.
Premier Smith, it was mentioned that there's a plan to have a model road duplicated throughout the territory, one that's going to pattern after the one that is being constructed currently in the 8th district. But I note you mentioned that road rehabilitation will continue to 2016. Does that put a bump in that plan?
No. The work on the road infrastructure, road system, is ongoing. And while we will have a continued drive because of the CDB project, for example, and other projects which we are now sort of penciled in for this coming year, the work of fixing the roads and rehabilitation will continue year on. As a matter of fact, that is why we have there's something called what is that called again? Road network improvement. Where funds go into that for maintenance of the road on a regular basis.
So just for clarification, what exactly is going to continue to 2016? Repairs and not the construction that we're seeing right now? Just clarification.
Yeah. What we are looking at is, right now, for example, with the CDB project, these are existing roadways which are being repaired because we see that there's need for improvement in those areas. What we are doing, apart from the CDP project, when you're looking at the main road, main roads, we are repairing the road right now from the bridge down into Barron Town. So these are existing roads that are in need of either resurfacing and repairing more extensively. And so we are referring essentially to repairing, resurfacing, reconstructing existing main thoroughfares, like the road from East End to West End, and other main roads, as well as opening new roads where that is necessary.
Premier Smith, in terms of improving the BVI economy and diversifying the economy more specifically, are you satisfied that improvements at the Burgers Bay Fisheries Complex and the coming on stream of the greenhouse project in Paraquita Bay later this year represent or constitute your government's goal to diversify the BVI economy, or were you hoping for something much bigger than that?
That is something that's ongoing that we expect to contribute to the diversification of the economy, but that is not the all in all of what we are looking at. We're looking at, for example, expanding the financial services by having value-added services to that industry. And this is why we had the major review of the financial services just recently. We're looking at improving and expanding our tourism products. And this is why we're building the pier. And this is why we're looking at new markets such as South America, such as China, as far as our tourism goes. So those two main areas, those are the two main pillars industries which we expect to widen, to deepen, to sort of improve the economy. And then we're also looking, of course, at fishing and agriculture, which has always remained part of the economy, but sort of not that buoyant, but now we're expecting them to grow and contribute more significantly. We also are looking at any other possible areas of investment, that is in hotel infrastructure, for example, and in industries. And this is why we have created what I call the Trade and Investment Promotion Department, to be able to have a wider look at improving and restructuring the economy of Libya.
But in terms of numbers, figures, as it relates to the fishing sector, have you been seeing any change, any major changes?
What I understand is happening is that persons can now go to the fishing complex and can always be supplied with fish or lobster as they need. Just up to a few years ago, the fishing complex imported a large amount of what they offer to the public. Now what they're offering is largely, most of it is caught locally.
But we don't have any data to really prove or to show the progress at this point.
We can provide that data. I'll have that discussion with the Ministry and we'll get the data for you. But this is essentially what is happening.
You mentioned diversifying the financial services sector. I understand the BVI relies heavily on offshore investments. But there has been an increase in liquidation and a slow, though a steady increase again in incorporation of companies as of 2014. Do you think that the financial services sector would need increased diversification to make it viable for the future?
Yes, our model is, a lot of it has to do with corporate structures and the use of corporate structures. We are now looking to diversify more in what we call value-added services, in terms of funds, in terms of insurance, in terms of what accounting can do for the management of those, even the corporate structures and funds, in terms of arbitration. Those are some of the areas we're expanding into.
And that would require new legislation?
Some of it would require new legislation. We did pass the Arbitration Act earlier this year, which provide the basis for us going into that, in that particular area. Yeah.
Premier, I wanted to ask an election-related question. At every election, the last two elections, we've heard about these cards. Has your government put anything in the budget for cards for this upcoming elections?
What do you mean by cards?
The photo ID cards, the photo ID cards for election purposes. I know there's been talk about it coming, and I wanted to know whether your government has put anything in the budget for it, and do you support us having photo ID cards for elections?
I cannot say whether they will be ready for this coming election, because I cannot tell you when this coming election will be at this moment. But what, if they are going to be done, and this is a matter of that the election office is dealing with. And once they made that determination and the funds are needed, the funds will be provided.
Premier Smith, we haven't had an opportunity to sit with you following your return from the Overseas Territories meeting. Would you be able to give us feedback on the hot topic at that meeting, namely beneficial interest, in terms of the BVI's position on that topic?
The BVI, as other overseas territories, several months ago agreed to have a review of the matter of beneficial ownership. And there was a consultation process with the industry to determine how the industry felt about the question of beneficial ownership. That review has taken place. We are now collating that data, and very soon we'll be able to publish the results and then the findings and government's determination as to where we should go.
Premier, I know you responded to Gordon's question about the elections, but if you're satisfied that your government is doing well, providing that you're not waiting until you've completed the cruise pair project, I'm sure you're working on preparing for elections.
Let's put it this way. I think my government has been steadfast in certainly over the past 3 years, and will continue to be, in doing the best we can to build and boost the economy at BVI and to provide the best social services that we can. We will continue in that quest. That's why we were so pleased when we were able to open the new People's Hospital just a little while ago. And now the patients are in that new hospital and everybody is feeling very comfortable about it. Right? This is why we are pleased to open a technical school. And we will continue to work steadfastly to improve the lives, the livelihood and economy of the Virgin Islands, until it's time for election. The election is something which must happen, but it doesn't interfere with the work of government. It doesn't cause us to slow down the pace of the development, because I think it is, as far as I'm concerned, it is our priorities to deliver the economy and social services to the benefit of all these people as soon as we can.
And Premier, my final question. You said that the patients are pleased with the new People's Hospital, but I understand that according to reports, some employees at the People's Hospital are not quite that happy, particularly with the lack of increments or paying of increments and so forth, and maybe some other working conditions that they may not be satisfied with. You're a medical practitioner. Are you aware of this, and what is your take on their concerns?
I know that the government, the central government, provides an annual what do you call
subsidy?
it?
Allocation
to the Health Service Authority, and they're the ones responsible for hiring and terms of service and employees. So that's where the responsibility lies.
As Mr. Rose, I have one last question, and this has to do with the annual reports from the Auditor-General. Why is it that, when the NDP was in opposition, they complained bitterly that these reports weren't coming? So why are they not coming now?
The reports those that have not been received by the Auditor-General will soon be received by her. As you know, there was a review of how the Treasury functioned some time ago, and based on that, we had to look at a lot of the figures and statistics and review those. So that's why the delay. Yeah.
I'm sure that you can tell us that you're being briefed on this. We all heard recently about the migrants believed to be from Haiti that were basically caught on Peter Island. Can you tell us what's the status of these folks? Are they still here? Are they being housed here, or have they been moved away?
They're being repatriated, yes.
But so far they're being housed here, or?
They're not here now.
Oh, they have been. Okay, yes. Sorry.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.